at least making sure the United States, so long as it pays attention, will never be under the jurisdiction of the court for aggression, was an achievement that a lot of people early on did not think was going to be possible. And I think it's a remarkable achievement. I'd like this one.
I do keep in mind, I mean, it wasn't, you know, obviously we have our interests, but, you know, there were many others that were also concerned, human rights groups that were concerned that, and of course human rights groups don't generally get into the aggression issue because it's not a human rights issue, but
some of them stayed away.
But others said, wait just a second here, we've got a court that still needs to get arrests, still needs to get trials finished, needs to get effective on these humanitarian law violations, atrocities, before it starts dealing with situations where maybe there are no atrocities, but border crossings or something like that, and we'd rather get that right first. And so that was part of the motivation to push it along 7 years. We're not in a world right now like 1914 and 1939 with armies, millions of men crossing borders.
Right.
This is not, the conflicts and the crimes that we see these days are invariably in civil wars, insurgencies, and militias, and racial, ethnic, political sort of violence that's being committed sometimes on a mass scale because somebody wants to gain or preserve power and wealth, etc. in various places in the world. That's what's happening, and that's what we want the court to just deter and to get that right before we deal with something that will be more difficult to get state cooperation on.
One last item before we go. You and your colleague, legal advisor Coe, made a very tough decision in this process early on concerning aggression, which was that you decided that you would not, despite your concerns about the definition of aggression, that you would not oppose that definition because it was the result of 8 years of a complex negotiating process in which the United States had voluntarily chosen not to participate. Many people feel that that decision was the first long step to what you finally achieved in Kampala. Does that seem right to you?
Well, it's a tough one. I mean, it's a reflection of the fact that, I mean, there was some aspects of it. We heard, you know, bumping into people when I came to Washington, came to New York for meetings regarding the tribunals. I'd say, what are you here for? Oh, we're here for the working group on aggression, et cetera. And they were there going to Princeton or wherever, talking about these issues, and we were nowhere around. And there were non-parties going to these meetings.
Of course,
you know,
it was open to everybody.
And they would, you know, and at one point they said, well, let's define, you know, aggression such as, and they had a list of such as. And the non-party apparently said, no, we don't want that. So it went out, you know. So, I mean, there were people that were in the room that were making this decision. In the end, everyone agrees, even the Brits and the French are allies, et cetera. And so that is a fundamentally done deal. And we can't go to a conference afterwards and say, well, we should have been there, and if we'd been there, we want to change this and this and this. Now, we did raise concerns about what manifest violation meant, et cetera. But, you know, in the end, we had to focus on trying to get understandings. We really couldn't revisit that one. And that was a reflection of our non-participation. But we have to deal with the reality of what's there and work with allies if we're going to get to the kind of resolution that we're able to get.
Well, dealing with reality is what you've led, you and Harold Coe have led the United States into in dealing with the court. Those of us who support the court are engaged in wanting to see the U.S. come closer and are at work in advocating that, are very much indebted to you for this leading from reality approach. I won't go into detail, but it is a very refreshing change from some of the things that we encountered in the past. So we're indebted to you, Mr. Ambassador, for that, as well as for being with us today. Thank you very much. This has been really good.
Okay, thank you very much, and look forward to doing it again. All right, and I'll be here. Okay, thanks a lot, Jim. Take care.